Hey there, friends. My name is Sarah Mastriani-Levi, and this is Healing Conversations with Sarah and William. Tonight, we're going to dive into something that seems kind of synonymous with the name of the show, but we haven't really talked about it, and it's all about healing and how much it's important to really feel our feelings in order to do the healing, and why that's often so complicated, especially the way it's taught to us and the way we grow up with that. So I'd like to invite William to join me and we will dive in. Hey, good evening. How are you?
Good evening. How are you?
I'm happy to see you.
It's like I've been taking a lot more breaths. I think it just really, it's like this pressure is building up and that I just need to release. And I didn't realize how much I wasn't breathing or how often I stopped breathing or my breathing is shallow to the point now. It's like, okay, all right. So,
I
good to
did
be
this holotropic breathwork seminar at one point, and so it's almost like a hyperventilating breathing just to get you
here.
breathing, and getting your body completely oxygenated. And when you hyperventilate, a lot of times your limbs or your fingers or toes will cramp up from just this amount of oxygen. But what we learned in this process is as we were breathing into it, I mean, it's quite like aggressively breathing, very
Right.
fast. It's a workout and you're sitting down. It's kind of, yeah, it doesn't make sense, but that's
Yeah.
how it works out. But as the facilitator began to kind of massage the places where it would cramp up, it was like emotions came out and stories came out and feelings came out in tears, like
Wow.
massive tears that I didn't even know were hiding in there anywhere. And the breathing for me was, I mean, we do it, it's funny. I can remember someone said, well, you know how many times we breathe on average a minute? And I was like, well, yeah. Before I started doing any of this breath work, it was kind of like, like fumbling around for my
Right.
words. And yet we live in this body and we've been doing it for 40, 50 years now. And it's on average 12 breaths a minute. And unless if you've sat or you've done breath work, you're going to be like, oh, well, okay, that's a new fact to know. Because people are just so detached from their breath. They're detached from the emotions, and the emotions where they get caught is like where the emotions stopped in your body. You stopped feeling them. They got locked in these joints, in the lack of, like, how we get
Yeah.
scared and we stop breathing, and that it just gets trapped in the body. So actually the healing process, part of it
Wow.
is the breath work.
Hmm.
One of the most, like, very serious healing sessions I ever had was a breath work session.
Wow. Hmm. Yeah, it's very um it's like I said, it's very interesting me to that within all of this breathing has just organically become a part of it. Right? So, it's like there's a part of me that was like, do I want to like hyperventilate? Right? It's like that's a little much. But there, there is a point that I have right now that I am just. I don't want to say I don't want anything to get in the way of my my current journey. I don't want um, to be a part of any blockages.
Mm-hmm.
So it is, hey, if it's breathing, yeah, let's do breathing. If it's, affirmations, let's do affirmations. I am, it's, there's not this, it's like desperation trying to throw something out against the wall to see what fits, what works. Um, but it's more of, this train is moving, right? Right. And, I'm committed to be on it. And so I'm going to be I am going to make sure that I'm not going to allow excuses or reasons or anything to get in the way of me showing up fully. I mean, the
Mhm.
goal is, you know, full self-expression,
Mm.
and how that happens. And I think healing, um, um, plays a part in that.
Mhm.
Um,
Full
yeah.
self expression. So let's go back and
Mm,
deconstruct that a little bit.
right.
What would that look like and what would that feel like?
Every time I say that or I think that, it's just light, right? It's just bright. There is a level of brightness, not that it is, headlights, right? Type of thing. But there is this bright glow that
Mhm.
I'm just like, um, I'm seen, I'm available, I'm all the uses. I mean, it's like, it comes up as like fire, you know? Fire
Mhm.
can harm and heal and warm, and it's got all the things that fire can do. That's what full self-expression for me is. Just kind of being, and be all of that.
Mhm.
And so yeah, but it starts with a glow, whatever
Mhm.
that means, right?
Mhm. And I would venture to put any of the primary elements into that. Just
Mhm.
like water, it
Right.
starts with a flow.
Hmm.
And emotions are inherently very flowing and water like.
Hmm.
Sometimes they're fiery, but in their natural state, it is an ebb and flow.
Hmm.
What's
Yeah.
what's coming up for you around that?
Yeah. There is, at the beginning of the year, I um I became present to, I guess, the yin and yang
Mm-hmm.
symbol.
Yes.
But how it came up, that I've never seen this image before, and I thought I could quickly find it, because I've never shared it, but I like saved it on my phone, right? That's what we do, right? It's like we save it on our phone for later. We deal with it, but no, it was like, earth and fire. It was like that type, those type of image, that image, that representation of yin and yang,
Mm-hmm.
and really, and like I said, I didn't understand it, I didn't appreciate it, I didn't, but I was like, but it resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe I need to be sharing that soon, because it feels
Yeah.
like, it's like time to really embrace that, and what that means. There is this fire, there are these feelings that, that wants to be or needs to be expressed and released, that it's a part of the yin and yang,
Mm-hmm.
the balance, as they say, that I'm not allowed. Well, yes, I am managing. So I'm out of balance. I'm out of alignment. You know, I can feel it, not just in my body, but I can feel it um, in my essence, whatever tasteful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if it's a shirt or not, but there's all these all these words, right? All these words
Mm-hmm.
that I typically don't use. That it's
Well,
like,
it's a good shirt, and
right.
I like the fact that we're exploring other words than are normally used.
Right.
I heard a sentence, I think last week, that rage is essentially, it's not an exacerbated form of anger. It is just an expression of emotions that were repressed and
Hmm.
suddenly are expressed. So it's not
Hmm.
just anger, it can also be like sadness that transforms
Right.
into rage, disappointment. Uh,
Mm,
I don't know many really high vibing emotions that turn into rage, but even just repressing happiness when you
right.
want to feel that just means that you're not able to express all of yourself and who you are.
Right.
And that would show up in an explosion at some point. Or rage is essentially like explosive.
Right. Then it's out of control. So it went from the appearance of being manageable. So now there's like no,
Mm-hmm.
it's just um I I think I've mentioned before that there were so many, images or ways when I was growing up where anger, there wasn't a virtuous anger, or righteous anger, that showed up. It was rage. It was destructive. It was brutal. It was, um, you know, painful. And so I remember as a child saying, that's not how I am going to express myself. I am not going to cause myself to be that emotionally attached to anything
Mm-hmm.
that would cause me to be so out of control. And I think that's why sometimes there has been a question within myself, about my passion, because passion, I for me, passion doesn't show up, because there's this deep feeling, this deep drive, this something, that's for me. And for me, my operating system, my operating default that I put on, right? Um, I adjusted the mechanics to was that, yeah, we're not going to go too far in. We can say we're all in, but all in isn't all in. It's all right here. This is where in is.
We're
Uh,
back to that phrase of managing feelings, which
right,
is a very masculine approach at something that is divine feminine within each of us.
right,
Emotions are innately feminine, and yet we all hold that within us. But this idea
right,
of managing, of being all in or partially in,
right,
it's a little bit delusional. It's a little bit delusional because
right,
whatever is not expressed is that unexpressed emotion that turns into rage or turns into illness
right,
in our bodies, that
right,
rage that's held. And anger can get shit done.
right. Hmm.
Rage is beyond that.
Right. We can
Rage
burn
is a
shit down, right?
Yeah, yeah, right. I mean, rage won't create the change that you want.
Right,
Anger still has talking points. It
right,
still has a place where we can meet and we can talk and we can make, coalesce into a way that we can find a solution. Rage
right,
is just like, this must escape. This is like a soda can that's been
right,
shaken up, and that if it does not release, yikes. But managing the soda can, you just let it sit for a little while closed and locked up, which is what so many people do. Sometimes, the CO2 calms
right,
down a little bit, and sometimes it's still explosive at the least
right.
expected moments. But that rage does not really ever go away. So
Hmm.
when we think that we're managing it, and we think that we're not all in, and we won't give all of our heart, and we won't feel completely because that's safe,
Right,
that's also like breaking the level for people to love us more deeply, because we don't allow them all the way in. We are not allowing ourselves to be completely vulnerable, and
right.
we're robbing relationships
Hmm.
of the entirety of us. But then that stems to safety. And I've always defined safety is the ability to be vulnerable and to know
Right,
that that truth won't be used against you.
right,
Because what happens if you're all in, right?
right. I think, there's part, something that just came up right now, and I don't, it's not the truth, but it's just, maybe it's a hope, a desire that truth can never be used against you. It's just the truth. So people can do anything to try to manipulate it or try to um, do something with it. But if it is the truth, it will stand. It doesn't need to be defended. It doesn't need to, it's anything. And it's like, it's everything. That's what I think. That's what I meant to say. It's, it's really what I'm defending, what can be used against me
Hmm.
is my understanding of the truth, but not the truth.
Right.
And I think that's um, going to vulnerability and
Hmm.
openness. That it is, am I willing to share my current understanding of truth
Right.
with you? And will you allow me to, to do that, and the feelings that go along with that?
Yeah. So, in theory, all of that sounds absolutely correct.
Okay.
And you and I both know that that is, on a larger scale, that is absolutely the truth. But what happens if I'm in a massive leadership position, not just managing my company, like in a worldly leadership
Right.
position, and I suddenly say, I'm a little bit scared about the direction of where this might go.
Hmm.
That's my truth.
Right.
But the way that so many people have, it's like this ingrained feeling that a leader can't show weakness. Like,
Right.
and I think even as parents, we often are not
Right.
emotional in front of our kids and forget about world leadership. Like, let's go back to the home front.
Right.
Well, and I've learned it certainly with my kids, and definitely had my moments where they've seen the best and the worst of me, and I'll own all parts of that. Um, but it took a lot of maturity from for them within them to be able to hold space for me to
Right.
be afraid or to be scared about something. And I never want to cause them unnecessary suffering or fear within themselves. But
Right.
how can I be truthful? So I think that there's something about the truth is the truth and it stands, and feelings are what they are. And there's nothing, you can't argue with what somebody feels. You can't
Right.
make them wrong for like feeling what they feel. It is what it is.
Right.
And yet, everything that is signified in leadership in our Western world is do not show weakness,
Right.
do not show vulnerability. And I feel like that is another part of the patriarchy that has robbed us of showing up fully.
Right. Look, my understanding, and it's kind of, after I just want to say this, my understanding of the patriarchy, is that it's just like funny to even have that thought, but it's that I believe that we um, like overlearned it or mislearned it, type of thing. The benefits of a patriarchy has been um, polluted to the point that the real power of it, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, it has been, um, we don't have an awareness or understanding of it for it to really operate in the balance that it's meant, that I think it's designed to do. So it's not, for me, um, there's all this relearning or just understanding the feelings that are coming up because of the pain of our misunderstanding, of it, to to then move ahead. And I think you're absolutely right. There's a lot of people that will say that, yeah, we don't want to show weakness, but at the same time, if you show weakness, then I can trust you. Um, but if or if you're, you know, if you're a man, maybe not. If you're a woman, you know, maybe. And it's like it's a moving target, and we really don't understand. And that's why it's really come up for myself that, you know, I can't. There's parts of me that really can't handle the truth, whatever the truth is. The truth in a situation. There are things that I can handle what I like to be true,
Mm-hmm.
right? What I like to be true about my feelings is that I think that this mild mannered William that shows up is um, is me, period, right? And I can kind of ebb and flow and get shit done and all that other kind of stuff. And it's like, and that is just not the truth. But I would love for that to be the truth.
What is the truth?
The truth is that there are emotions and feelings of fear, regret, disappointment, disillusionment, all of those indications of what's going on or how the world is showing up for me has to be present so I can move in it. There was someone said, I think this week we were talking about self-confidence is is really about um, accepting an awareness of, you know, more parts of yourself. And the more that you're aware of the completeness of yourself, the more that you have the confidence when something goes down, whatever part of you that needs to show up will show up because you're aware of it. It's not a mystery. And I think most of the times when I'm not confident or I don't have a self confident is that there has been so many parts of me that I hide or that are hidden from me because um, shame and fear, all the type of thing that I don't have the level of self confidence that is needed to show up in any and every situation.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I would love this mild mannered, you know, well spoken most of the times individual to kind of just cascade through my life, that's not the truth.
Mm-hmm. What do you need to do to allow more of that truthful William to show up? Like, is there a
It's
way to
like
incorporate it?
it's like more parts of me to fall apart, I guess, right? I mean, it's there is, and I as a kid I was always told that I'm a quick learner. I get you don't have to tell me twice and all that type of thing. But what's showing up for me is that there are things that I either like take and incomplete and keep it moving, right? But or I just act as if these tests and these learning opportunities are not for my benefit.
Mm-hmm.
They're like a distraction, And it's like I have no time to learn about my courage. I have no time to learn about my fears and
So now your body is demanding that you make the time.
right, right,
Yeah, it's so interesting how, and I see this again and again in my practice with holistic health and transformational coaching, and how people come in with one thing and then they have like an illness that shows up and it kind of like travels in their body according to what we're dealing with.
right.
And a lot of people won't really go to the metaphysical level of how everything is connected to everything, and that we chose these lessons to teach us whatever skills we needed to learn in this lifetime, which is probably pretty far on the woo-woo scale for a lot of people.
Right.
But if we were even willing to consider that, which is definitely something that I believe, then the pain that you're going through right now, whether it's neck pain or hand pain, necks and shoulders, and it's like where's my anything that has to do with our back. I mean, there's different chakra systems, but like where exactly it's happening is also like where your voice is.
Right.
It's also where your flexibility in situations
Mm.
shows up. I was in a car accident in February, and thank God, it was a 4-car pileup on the highway, and like came through it with only like shoulder, neck, and some back pain that I've been working pretty aggressively with a chiropractor on. But when we think about an accident, a rear ending specifically, like not a lot of people want to look at this in this way, but you are being physically redirected. Like
Mm.
for me, that's a hard lesson because I consider
Right.
myself a pretty like awake person, pretty
Right.
on the path of where I feel like the divine is leading me. And then to be like, oh, move over.
Right.
And that this pain, really shifting the idea that this pain is a gift. First of all, a 4-car pileup at 75, 80 miles an hour, no given that
Right.
I would have survived that, right?
Mm.
Not only did I survive, but I get to feel this pain, and I get to find a way to heal it, and I get a way to access the emotions that were locked in all the places that got hurt. All
Right.
the places that we get hurt are the places where the emotions are locked. And the emotions that are connected to that body part, are the things that we need to face.
Wow. Is hmm.
So, I mean, I could have gotten hurt in my big toe. I could have gotten hurt on my ear. But the
Right.
exact places, albeit they are pretty much in alignment with how somebody who gets rear ended gets injured,
Right.
but they are places in my life where I need to face the music of like, oh, where am I not really using my voice? Where am I not being flexible? Where have I allowed my power to be taken away? And just
Right.
say, yeah, I have to not only admit this, but be willing to feel everything that's trapped in those places that allowed me to get hurt.
Right. Wow. Now, what has come up for me is um, much of my pain. So I'll just put it for me. So I don't know for anybody else. Is because of areas of repression and inflexibility. you know, it's like this really because I um, made a choice of not having movement in this in these areas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've created, space, right, for things to just it's like I just got an image of, a junk drawer, right? Nope, here's these emotions I don't want to deal with. Just throw them in a junk drawer. I'll get them whenever I need them. And I'm never going to, and sometimes, I don't know about you, I open that drawer and it's like, I have no idea what's in there and I really don't want to deal with that right now, But that's how I've been dealing or not dealing with my feelings. And now it's like demanding my attention.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, and, and and I think the biggest challenge that I have, and I think it shouldn't well, and now I'm judging if that should be the biggest thing. It's like, dude, you got bigger problems. Why are you worried about that? But it's like, I consider myself a flexible person. you know.
Mhm.
So it's like, have I been lying to myself, right?
Okay.
It's like, like, do I really believe that I'm a flexible person, or do I know that I'm not a flexible person, but I just say that, you know?
So this is a really good point. Just like I said to you, I feel like I'm a pretty aligned person, listening to the divine, listening to my intuition, making brave choices that are not the status quo, like all these same things.
Right.
But really, what I think we're being called to do is acknowledge
Hmm.
and then show gratitude. Like, I'm so
Hmm.
grateful that I'm not dead and I have this pain to deal with, that my kids
Right.
are not having to grow up without a mom.
Right. Hmm.
Um, and I'm grateful for the fact that, in as much as COVID kind of shook us all up, I'm really grateful for the fact that I'm taking things slower. And it's allowing me to actually sit with some of those feelings that, as you put it, would have gone maybe in the junk drawer, or would have just definitely got pushed to the wayside in my case. I don't really
Right.
connect with the junk drawer analogy personally, but like, just keep swimming, like push it out of the
Right.
way, push, just keep going, like that
Right.
very headstrong. I'm in this to keep moving, um, and so really just the gratitude. Okay, now not only do I know that I have this pain and that I'm fortunate to have the pain, which sounds kind of juxtapositioned in all
Oh
kinds of
yeah.
ironic ways, but the gratitude for being able to, I can feel that pain. I'm not paralyzed. I can feel it. And now I have an option to look at, to do that personal work and to look on a metaphysical level. Well, what does that shoulder actually represent? What does that mid back, what's going on? Oh, wait a minute, something is blocked in my heart. Well, here we
Hmm.
go. I didn't want to
Right.
acknowledge that I wasn't feeling things.
Right.
Well, here's all the stuff that I wasn't feeling, that's the place where my body got injured. And I can't deny it now. My body's saying, oh, you didn't want to slow down? I will force you to slow down.
Right.
Here, universe, car accident. You must be in bed for 3 weeks. You must be in bed for this amount of time. And just sit with it.
Hmm.
And it's really hard to, it's kind of like the prison term.
Right.
Like, you sit there and think about what you did wrong.
Right.
But what if it wasn't what I did wrong, but how I need to do things differently?
Right. It's just an opportunity to do things differently. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
I think because I've noticed that I try to do the right thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's more about being. I love how you said just acknowledging what's so, instead of what I heard, instead of um, just blaming, and just kind of feeling that you know woe is me. It's like, I gotta pay, or this is my cross to bear, or all that other
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff. And I'm going to, no pain, no gain, and all that other kind of stuff. And and kind of, there was a part of me that was okay with a level of pain,
Mm-hmm.
and and I had to say to myself, no. In order for me to live the fully expressed life, self-expressed life, pain is not a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, whatever I need to do, whatever feelings I need to um, feel, sit in, um, express, I am just going to do that. And I really, it's like I know and I don't know. It's like when I've been doing a couple affirmations, to kind of tell me that I'm flexible, I'm loved, this is safe, I don't have, there is this, it's inviting me to just be.
Mm-hmm.
and relax. And the more that I am not tensing up and protecting myself, right? and becoming inflexible, which
Mm-hmm.
is causing the pain, um, the the more that I can um, be fully present. And it is, I think, even with the conversation around, my book, beyond the shell, finding you beyond what protects you,
Mm-hmm.
it was calling me to kind of look at how I've been protecting myself, how I've been creating things to protect how other people have been protecting me, all of these things, how labels protect me and all that other kind of stuff, that I was losing myself behind all of that protection.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that protection was turning into a lovely prison, right? Right,
Mm-hmm.
and it's, even though it was a hard thing to hear, you know, delusional, right? It's like I created a lovely prison that I don't call a prison. It's called, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm free to move. I can even take my prison with me. So I'm, so I have the flexibility. I'm free to do all that other kind of stuff. And it's like, wow, you are so delusional right now, right?
It's like the golden cage, it's so
Right,
opulent and beautiful, but it's still a cage, and we carry them
right,
around our hearts so often, and they're hidden underneath our shells
right.
of clothing. As you were talking, I was thinking about healing in general. Like, when you see someone with a broken leg and they have a cast on, and then
Mhm.
you see them later and they have their cast off, you're like, oh, they healed. They did. That's a physical healing, and we can see it and we can acknowledge it.
Mhm.
And there is a personal development healing. Some people are very social and open about their processes and their epiphanies and their understandings and all those different times that the coin dropped in the slot
Mhm.
at the specific moment that it happened, and they'll talk about it. But I think for a lot of people who are very introverted, healing is a very private process, whether they have a cast on or whether they are healing their hearts.
Mhm.
Because introverts process everything internally. They don't have to talk it through with other people in order to find their healing. They talk about it after they find their
Right,
healing. Whereas extroverts have to talk in order to create the healing.
right.
They are not able to process things without talking with someone. So there's a whole subsector. I don't know if subsector actually means smaller, a secondary sector
Right.
of processors as introverts, ambiverts, that are not talking about their internal healing.
Mhm.
And maybe they've healed an emotion and it's no longer rage for them.
Right.
But we as humans see them more or less as we saw them.
Mhm.
They don't have a cast and then don't have a cast.
Right.
Their heart, the whole change of evolution, personal evolution, of birth and death, of the different cycles of ourselves, we don't see that. We don't hear about them. And then we see them again and we're like, hey, William, it's good to see you. How are you? Are you still? And I'm probably going to recall the last things that you talked with me about.
Right.
And you are a completely different person. I know that throughout the past 2 years, like a snake sheds its skin every so often, like
Mhm.
that complete and total transformation still looks like the same black snake that you saw, maybe a little bit larger. And I'm just making that analogy because we talked about the black snake that lived by my door for
Right.
years, and a snake of the day that I would see daily,
Right.
and how the shedding process goes. And I'll just go over it again because I feel like it's so similar to the transformations that we go through that don't seem to be visually the cast and then not the cast. But the snake actually prepares for several weeks to shed its skin. And it slowly kind of separates a little bit and detaches. But the snake actually sheds its eyelids as well, like from its lip all the way back, the entire covering. So it has to, like, when it starts to get really tight in that skin, it separates a little bit. And even though it uses heat detection to find most of its prey, it does use its eyes on some level. And that's like walking around with like cataracts or like really
Right.
dirty glasses.
Right.
If you don't see that car that jumps out in front of you, you're
Right.
going to be like really upset. So they're way more aggressive right when they're getting very close to the evolution, to the transformation, to the massive change, to leaving every bit of themselves externally behind,
Right.
to create another version of themselves that looks exactly the same, just slightly bigger, probably not even noticeable to the human eye.
Right.
They get angry.
Right. Wow.
And they get panicky. Anything that moves too fast, they can't see it, they can't sense it. And until all of that skin comes off of them, they're just feisty.
Right.
And how often in our own evolutions, as we're coming up on those changes and the healing and the shifting, and like, I've shed my skin probably 20 times energetically
Right.
in evolutions of these birth and death over the past 2 years. And for me, that's when somebody sees me and talks to the old Sarah, I'm just like, I wish you could see me. And that's not my ego talking. That's my
Right.
spirit wanting to celebrate healing.
Right. Wow. Yeah. I I really I'm what's coming up for me is that, I talk about transformation and being up for it and saying that it's possible and everything like that. And there is a big, I guess it's ego of, looking good or not looking good, is that, I have put out a part of my healing journey that, hey, some of the causes, I believe, is repress anger and, and rage. And these are the affirmations that I'm doing to kind of to work through that. And after I did it, it's like the day after I made that public, declaration of what's going on, I was like, holy crap. Now I can't hide from this. Now I can't, and it's like, how is that going? And it's like, okay, what if I still have this pain in my neck? What if I still have this, will people think that I'm still this angry person, right? It's like really, how can I shed my skin? How can I show enough change? Because I can't smile bigger, right? It's like, hey, I'm, I'm not in pain right now, or whatever, whatever I need to do to look good in this healing process that I'm in, and still
Healing is
say,
ugly, by the way.
right.
It's
What?
like,
Yeah.
like yeah.
And, and so it was, I think there was a part of me that wanted help through this, wanted a level of accountability of it, and I guess the simple word is help, because I think I've mentioned before that I'm using the wrong word. I am still disappointed at the level of repress anger and rage, because I felt that I coped well. You know, I've handled things. I've talked people off the ledge. I've been a source of calm and reason for people. How can I have something repressed, right? Who. But it's
The pride in the dealing, right?
right. The pride in the dealing. Yeah. And it's
Here we
just
are
like,
back again with managing emotions.
right. Right. I think we've talked about this before on one of our shows when we were talking about the race conversation that we're having in this country, um, is that not wanting to be the considered the angry black man or whatever that means to other people, but me really keeping that in check has created this way of showing up in pain. And so there's this level of pain because that's not the only um, thing that makes me angry, right? That I can't express my feelings in a certain way because how people see someone that has the color of my skin. And so really not understanding that or appreciating that. But now it's to the point that, hey, you're going to have to figure out a way to not repress any of this,
Mm-hmm.
because um, you may you may be making some white people comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
but you're putting yourself in distress. Um,
I agree. Yeah, and there have been some really powerful videos that Trevor Noah has put out about that very topic. That that it's just like the pain that shows up when we breathe. Finally, there is a breathing that's going on and giving life to so much that was repressed. Suddenly, it's been oxygenated in a way that is necessary to really heal and pull out those kinks. And we are so far from being healed. This is not going to be over.
right,
This is not going to give it time and it will be healed in XYZ. This is going to be an ongoing conversation because generationally it has been so ingrained in on so many levels that people are not acknowledging, or maybe they are acknowledging both in mixed and separate conversations. But the rage is justified, and realizing that those emotions that were repressed for so long are justified. Um, it's a very important part of the healing, acknowledging those emotions that were repressed.
right,
Um, the places where I get scared personally are the places where I'm acknowledging white privilege. I'm acknowledging all that has been allowed to me. But when I get going back to this idea of not being seen for what's evolved within me, within generations, within any of us,
right,
and having someone else's rage that is knowingly justified being
right,
turned on me because of the color of my skin, I get to
right,
experience essentially the opposite of what so many African Americans have been feeling for so many years. And that fear, which is healthy for me to be able to experience that. And
right,
yet that's a real fear for me.
right,
Being punished. And I want to say, hey, I'm not
right,
fighting. I'm not against you. I'm
right,
standing with you, shoulder to shoulder, fighting
right,
racism, fighting bigotry, fighting hate,
right,
fighting, or maybe peacefully just holding hands and saying, I will protect you because this has
right,
been wrong and your emotions are justified.
right. But like you said before, when rage shows up, then all bets are off,
Right. It's
right?
explosive.
Because right, it's beyond anger, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, anger could understand that you're an ally and can see the difference. Rage cannot.
Right.
Rage is kicking butts and taking names, right? I mean, it's
And it
and
might
not
not
even
even
taking
be,
names, right.
it's
It's
like,
just
this is my shot to do something that finally allows me to have an outlet, whatever it is. I mean, there's no part of me that is in favor of the looting and the other
Right.
things that go along with the rioting and the protests.
Right.
And yet, I heard, and I don't remember her name. This is another powerful video that I saw. Trevor Noah shared probably 3 or 4 months ago. This woman said, you know, when someone is so repressed and so full of rage, that their best shot at creating something better than where they are is to walk into a store and take something. That shows you a huge level of desperation that hasn't been acknowledged.
Mm.
If that's their best shot, like,
Mm.
I can think of a million ways other that someone could probably make a difference and create a different life. And that's white
Right.
privilege talking. Because I
Mm.
haven't lived in that reality of, wow, my best shot right now is to take something expensive that I can sell to have a little bit extra money,
Right. Wow.
or so that I can have it and I can be amongst the haves and not the have nots.
Right. Because um, that's where the value is placed, right? You know, and not in
Right.
the life, right?
And it's not to say that I haven't been amongst the have nots many times in my
Right.
life, but it still will never, I can't even begin to talk about that because it's not that my feelings are not justified. They
Right.
are just not seeing the whole picture. They are not acknowledging the whole
Right.
picture.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, and at, you know, at the end of the day, and, because how I see things, it's not helpful for anybody. Nobody wins, right? We have this us against them mentality. And when it's us against them, nobody wins.
Right.
And, and it just, until we get off of that train, and go from, um, another. I was about to say something, but I'll save it for another another day because it's because it's not a part of healing. I think it will cause more pain, than healing. So but it's just there is what is causing me to not say what I was going to say is because of the state of desperation. When your pain or when your repression gets to the point of desperation, then any relief, will do. But at the same time, um, you want. I believe we're coming to a point that, I don't want to say no return, but we cannot. This cannot be placated.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And I think there are things in the work to placate this, that it feels like it's the solution.
To me, it feels like there's so much of just like, oh, here's a cup for you to have some water, and
Right.
it's got a hole in the bottom.
Right.
And oh, you're not happy with that last sip that was left for you? That desperation of like, healing is not placating.
Right.
Healing is making, it's not even giving a full sealed bottle of water to somebody. Healing is complete access to water for everyone
Mm.
and never having to know that thirst.
Mm.
And what would have to shift within all of us for that
Mm.
to be available,
Wow.
even within races
Right.
themselves? Because there's this thing that we do even within our own races of, we try and pretend that we're not like um, Indians from India that talk about the caste system, but it's a silent thing that still happens here in so many ways.
Right.
What do we have to do to knock that silent caste system out and heal that?
Right. Wow. Yeah. What I'm getting from this conversation, is that, there's a nice little feeling stew that, It's inviting me to not just take a whiff, but to kind of just kind of be with it, because it's, I am my feelings and I'm not my feelings.
Mm.
Um, and I've embraced that I'm not my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
But the more that I embrace that I am my feelings, then I can be with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's and I think that's what this moment is causing. That's, if I truly want to be healed
Mm-hmm.
or be on the way of healing or get access to healing, my feelings um, have to be owned as mine, right? Right,
You
there,
have to
right,
sit with them. There's something
right,
in Judaism that said,
right.
um, in Judaism, when someone dies, the family will sit for 7 days in a shiva, and it's really considered to be like one of the most powerful gifts that you can give a grieving person is to sit with them. And what if you were to give that powerful gift to yourself, to really
Mm,
sit with your emotions and to listen to them? Um, I kind of want to circle back to also something that we talked about before about something that's rarely discussed is the celebration of healing
mm,
and
yeah,
how rare that is. So, the cast is off. Yay, you can go swimming now.
right.
Or the cancer's beat. Yay, you can ring the bell. Or whatever it is at the oncology unit. God forbid that anyone needs to go to. But what about the healing that's silently done within each of us every time that we sit with our emotions?
Right.
Every time that we allow our opinion to change? Maybe not completely, but even
Mm,
just slightly. How can we celebrate that growth
wow.
within ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah, that is, um, for me, it feels like it's tough because of ego, because it can quickly turn into this, me. Look at me.
But
I'm
we do the
healed.
opposite. We do the
Right.
opposite. We instead of there are narcissists and selfish people who are like, wow, but I did this and I did that. But
Right.
people who are really on a path, generally who are on a path of evolving and growing,
Mm,
are pretty humble in those baby steps,
right. Got it.
in those sacred, difficult, silent moments of grief that has shifted into something else
Right.
because we don't have verbiage around it.
Mm,
And when we were talking about that process of surrendering, I was reading earlier that to surrender, I'm not good at this surrender stuff. It's not like,
mm,
oh, I'm going to hold up the white flag. I'm tired of fighting. That surrender to the emotions to allow them to come into our heart space. It's like, okay, words, 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 words. What do I need to do?
right.
What if there's no doing? It's this being. Well, how do I do it? Still
Right.
trying to figure that out. Well, how do I be it?
Right.
And one of the things that I read that I want to put out is that surrender is offering the emotions to the divine.
Mm, yeah.
What would need to happen?
I think it feels like without words, because most of the times the words, the language gets in the way of, I don't want to say of true healing,
Hmm.
but it feels like for me that in that process of healing, the more words that I put in it, the more I create harm with
We
other people.
humanize
Right,
it. We
right, right,
humanize it according to our experience.
right. And so if it is an offering to the divine, it's like no words are needed, and be okay. with that.
And what if you were to allow your breath to be that vehicle for that offering?
Right. And your awareness of your breath.
Mm-hmm.
Send the feelings, the emotions to cause the release.
Mm-hmm. It's no longer a question of who can handle it.
Right. Wow. Yeah, because that's the biggest fear for me. It's like, you can't handle this, right? I don't want to like um, impact you with this, overwhelm you with my
Mm-hmm.
emotions. I can remember as a child that tears, I was that never worked. But a woman crying, a young girl crying, that would be even worse. So it's like a man crying, it was like I don't want to see that. But a woman crying, it's like, oh, I not only do I not want to see that, I can't deal with that. I can't I can't the level of and I this is just coming up. I don't know if this is the truth, but the difference between when I was growing up, a man crying and a woman crying was that a woman a woman's cry was connected to her feelings. You could feel that it was at a place, those tears were coming from a place somewhere beyond what just happened. A guy was for me was just crying because I stomped my foot, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like you could easily see where I think like you were saying before, where the origin of the pain or the discomfort or the causing
Mm-hmm.
that. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you stomp your foot or you broke your arm. Okay, I get it. You're crying, right? That makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's a cry from emotions, from a place of great loss or great, excitement or something, it's just for me,
Mm-hmm.
it was like it's too much. Because,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's the level of connection that I think is inviting me to connect to now.
Mm-hmm. A deeper place within yourself.
Right. It's like I want to scare myself with my tears, right? It's like I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
that's all about, right? It's like
Maybe just have a lot of compassion.
yes. Compassion.
Mm-hmm. So, my takeaways from what we talked about tonight were a few things. That pain and injury actually show up from repressed emotions.
Hmm.
Um, Pain is an opportunity to do things differently.
Hmm.
Everything, including my pain, is my teacher.
Hmm.
And surrendering my emotions by creating an offering to the divine through my breath.
Hmm.
That is a musical practice that is much easier to adopt than you got to feel this because that's
Right.
how it's going to be.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And it starts with that awareness because that's what I got for Kurt, the awareness of what I'm feeling and
mm-hmm,
just the acknowledgement of that and the gratitude. And then with my breath, I offer it.
mm-hmm.
And now it's not in my neck, right? Or my hand, right?
There's so much we store that we don't even have a
Uh,
clue that we store in our bodies.
right. Right. Wow. This has been great. I I I feel better, whatever that means. And I don't it's like, where, but there is this sense of there is this weight, pressure that's being lifted. That because I have a tool, I have an opportunity to um, to surrender it and not hold on, not place it somewhere that you know, the incomplete. I can complete it.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. This has been a wonderful another week of
I enjoy them as well. Yeah, it's
right.
nice. Well, I definitely want to thank everyone who stuck with us until now or and has been have been following, whether it's just this show or the series as it progresses. And I know that we're both enjoying it and feeling very honored that you chose to share this time with us. So we thank you and we bless you and hope to see you again next week.
Great, wonderful.